What happens if you drink olive oil every night before bed? The honest answer is not the dramatic answer people love to share online. It is not a magical nighttime cure, and it is not a dangerous poison either. It is something much more interesting because olive oil is a concentrated fat, and fats have power. They can support your heart when they replace saturated fats, they can add calories very quickly, and they can either feel soothing or feel heavy, depending on your body, your timing, and what else is happening in your day. That is why this question matters so much. A single spoonful may look small, but inside that spoonful is a story about metabolism, digestion, blood lipids, calorie balance, and the way your body responds to the pattern of your life, not just one moment before bed. Now let us slow down and look at what olive oil actually is. Olive oil is mostly unsaturated fat, especially monounsaturated fat, and extra virgin olive oil also contains polyphenols and other bioactive compounds that have been linked with cardiovascular benefits in research reviews. That matters because not all fats behave the same way in the body. Health organizations have long emphasized that replacing saturated fat with healthier unsaturated fats, including olive oil, can help lower cardiovascular risk. In other words, olive oil is not valuable because it is oily. It is valuable because in the right context, it can improve the quality of the fat you are eating. But that same value can be lost if people add it on top of an already excessive diet, instead of using it to replace less healthy fats. That simple difference between replacing and adding is where many people get confused. If you drink olive oil every night and it replaces butter, heavy cream, fried snacks, or other saturated fat-heavy choices, that can be a meaningful upgrade. If you drink olive oil every night on top of everything else you already eat, then it is not a health hack, it is extra energy. USDA food composition resources remind us that oils are a concentrated source of calories, which is exactly why dietary guidance often says they should replace solid fats rather than be added to total intake. So the first thing to understand is that olive oil is not special because it is taken before bed. It is special because of what kind of fat it is and what it replaces in the larger pattern of your diet. That is the real science, and it is far less glamorous than the internet version, but much more useful. If you drink olive oil every night, one possible effect is that you may slowly shift the quality of your overall fat intake in a favorable direction, especially if the rest of your diet is built around less healthy fats. Research in extra virgin olive oil suggests that polyphenol-rich olive oil may contribute to cardiometabolic benefits, and observational evidence has linked higher olive oil intake with lower cardiovascular disease risk. The American Heart Association has also reported that higher olive oil intake was associated with lower risk of cardiovascular disease in one large observational analysis, and broader AHA guidance continues to stress that the overall dietary pattern is what matters most. So yes, there is a reasonable heart health story here, but it is a story of long-term substitution, not a midnight miracle. If your total eating pattern is poor, olive oil at bedtime will not erase it. If your total eating pattern is strong, olive oil may fit neatly into it as one healthy piece. There is also the question of blood lipids, because many people hear oil and assume it must automatically be unhealthy. That is not how the evidence works. Olive oil, especially extra virgin olive oil, is often discussed in the context of improved lipid profiles or improved resistance of blood lipids to oxidative damage, thanks in part to its phenolic compounds. Reviews in PubMed note that extra virgin, polyphenol-rich olive oil is associated with specific health benefits, and newer reviews continue to describe the potential cardiovascular relevance of its bioactive compounds. At the same time, even the review literature is careful. Olive oil is healthier than many saturated fat-rich options, but excessive use can still have downsides because it is energy dense. So the benefit is real, but the dose matters. A food can be health-promoting and still be overused. That is one of the most important truths in nutrition, and it applies here perfectly. Now let us talk about bedtime, because that is where the practical reality begins. Drinking olive oil every night before bed is not the same as eating it with lunch or using it in a balanced dinner. At night, your body is preparing for rest, not for a big digestive workload. For some people, a small amount of olive oil feels fine. For others, especially people who already struggle with reflux, heartburn, or a sensitive stomach, a fatty intake close to lying down can be a problem. Medical guidance on GERD and heartburn commonly lists high-fat foods as triggers, and symptoms may worsen after eating, when bending over, or when lying down, especially at night. That does not mean olive oil is automatically bad. It means timing matters if your stomach is sensitive. If a person lies down soon after taking a large dose of oil, the combination of fat, fullness, and gravity working against the esophagus can make discomfort more likely. That is why I want to be precise. The problem is not olive oil alone. The problem is olive oil in the wrong setting for the wrong body. People who have reflux often discover that high-fat foods sit longer, can relax the lower esophageal sphincter, and can increase the chance of acid traveling upward. Johns Hopkins Medicine, the NIDDK, Medline Plus, and Mayo Clinic guidance all point in the same direction. Fatty foods are a common reflux trigger, and avoiding late meals or lying down soon after eating can help reduce symptoms. So, if someone drinks olive oil right before bed and then wakes up with burning in the chest, sour taste in the mouth, or a heavy feeling in the stomach, that is not mysterious. It is a predictable digestive response in a sensitive system. The body is not being dramatic. The body is giving feedback. Another thing people often hope for is weight loss. They imagine that olive oil at night somehow burns fat, melts belly fat, or detoxes the body while they sleep. There is no credible evidence for that kind of magical thinking. What the evidence does support is much simpler. Healthier fats can be part of a better diet, and replacing saturated fats with unsaturated fats can support better cardiovascular outcomes. But olive oil is still calorically dense. If you add it nightly without reducing something else, it can move you in the wrong direction for body weight over time. Reviews of olive oil and body fat do not show a magical fat-burning effect. Instead, they show that the effect depends on the larger dietary context and the way olive oil is used. So the adult, evidence-based answer is this: olive oil can support health, but it does not override physics. Calories still count, and the total pattern still matters. There is also a very human reason some people feel good after olive oil at night. A small amount of fat can feel satisfying. It can create a sense of fullness, and for some people, that feels calming before sleep. But there is a thin line between satisfying and heavy. The same ingredient that helps one person feel comfortably nourished may leave another person feeling bloated or uncomfortable. That is why you should never turn a single internet tip into a universal rule. Nutrition is personal. Two people can drink the same amount of olive oil before bed and have completely different experiences. One person sleeps peacefully, another person gets reflux, nausea, or a morning stomachache. The science tells us the possibility exists. Your own body tells you whether it is a good fit. That is why self-observation is such a powerful tool in health. Not every trend deserves your trust, and not every healthy food is healthy in every amount, at every time, for every body. If someone still wants to include olive oil in an evening routine, the smarter strategy is not to swallow a large amount straight from a spoon in the dark, as if it were a medicine. The smarter strategy is to make it part of dinner, or part of a meal earlier in the evening in a modest amount as a replacement for less healthy fats. That is much closer to how the evidence-based benefits are actually achieved. Olive oil shines when it is woven into a Mediterranean-style dietary pattern, not when it is isolated as a stunt. Put it on vegetables, use it in a salad, drizzle it over beans or fish, or use it in a meal where it replaces butter or heavy cream. In that form, it becomes part of a pattern that research has repeatedly associated with better heart health, better lipid effects, and better overall dietary quality. The goal is not to worship olive oil. The goal is to use it wisely. And if we are being truly honest, a lot of the internet advice around olive oil before bed mixes a few real facts with a lot of exaggeration. Yes, olive oil contains healthful unsaturated fats. Yes, extra virgin olive oil has polyphenols that are biologically interesting. Yes, replacing saturated fat with olive oil can be a smart move, but no, that does not mean the body becomes healthier simply because the oil was taken at 10 p.m. instead of 10 a.m. Your liver does not suddenly become more heroic at night. Your arteries do not enter a secret repair mode because a spoonful happened after sunset. Your body responds to the total intake, the total pattern, and the total quality of the diet. That is a deeper truth, and it is a comforting truth because it gives you control. You do not need a perfect ritual. You need a repeatable pattern. So what should a sensible person take from all this? If you tolerate olive oil well, a small amount can fit into a healthy eating pattern, especially if it replaces butter or other saturated fats. If you have reflux or a sensitive stomach, taking it right before bed may not be the best idea. If you are thinking it will rapidly melt fat or detox the body, that is not science. That is marketing. If you are using it in place of worse fats, that is where the evidence begins to support you. And if you are trying to build a stronger heart, a better lipid profile, and a more balanced diet, olive oil is best understood as one useful tool, not a miracle cure. That is the balance I want you to leave with. Respect the food, respect the evidence, and respect your own body's response. Think of olive oil the way you would think about a powerful instrument. In the right hands, in the right dose, in the right context, it can make beautiful music. But even a beautiful instrument can sound wrong if played at the wrong time, too loudly, or in the wrong room. That is exactly how nutrition works. The quality of the food matters. The amount matters. The timing matters for certain people. The replacement matters more than the addition, and the total pattern matters above all. That is why the question, what happens if you drink olive oil every night before bed, does not have one answer. It has several answers, depending on what your body needs and what your habits already look like. For some, it may be a harmless and even helpful routine. For others, it may be a recipe for reflux and extra calories. For many, it is simply unnecessary. So here is the clearest conclusion I can give you. Olive oil is one of the healthier fats, especially when extra virgin olive oil is used in place of saturated fats. It may support cardiovascular health, and research suggests its polyphenols and monounsaturated fat profile are part of the reason. But drinking it every night before bed is not a magic shortcut, and it is not automatically wise for everyone. If your stomach is sensitive, late-night oil may worsen heartburn or reflux. If your goal is heart health, the better strategy is to use olive oil consistently as part of a balanced diet, not as a bedtime trick. In health, the smallest daily choices can matter a lot, but they matter because they repeat. The real question is not what one spoonful does at midnight. The real question is what your habits do to your body over months and years. And if you only remember 6 things, remember this. First, olive oil is a healthier fat, especially when it replaces saturated fat. Second, extra virgin olive oil has polyphenols that may add to its benefits. Third, it is still calorie dense, so more is not automatically better. Fourth, drinking it right before bed can trigger reflux in people who are prone to heartburn. Fifth, the overall diet matters far more than one nighttime ritual. And sixth, the best use of olive oil is as part of a steady pattern that supports your heart, your digestion, and your long-term health.